Today, Germany stands as the economic engine of Europe. It is a champion of modern democracy and a global leader in technology and engineering, anchoring the continent's stability. But this unified stability is a massive historical anomaly. For centuries, the center of Europe was a patchwork of hundreds of independent kingdoms, duchies, and principalities. Germany, as a single nation, simply did not exist. Long before a unified state, Central Europe was heavily forested and inhabited by fiercely independent tribes. When the mighty Roman Empire pushed north, they met warriors who refused to be conquered. In 9 AD, these Germanic tribes ambushed and annihilated 3 Roman legions at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, permanently establishing the Rhine River as the boundary between the Roman world and the untamed north. How exactly did the most geographically fractured and tribal region in Europe repeatedly pull itself together to build massive, world-altering empires? The first real attempt to forcefully bind these lands came from the Franks. Through intense military campaigns, leaders like Clovis forged a massive kingdom that eventually swallowed Western Europe, reaching its peak size underneath a single sweeping boundary ruled by Charlemagne. But realms built entirely on a single conqueror's willpower rarely survive their deaths. After Charlemagne passed away, his sprawling territory was divided among his grandsons through the Treaty of Verdun. The heavily forested eastern portion was handed to Louis the German, creating the East Frankish Kingdom. This newly formed eastern realm faced constant border attacks from pagan Magyars. King Otto stepped up, decisively defeated the invaders, and expanded his influence to the point that in 962 AD, the Pope crowned him emperor. The Holy Roman Empire was born. Despite the grand title, this new empire was an illusion. It was not a tightly controlled nation. Instead, it operated as a sprawling, highly decentralized web of semi-independent princes, electors, and city-states, preserving the region's ancient habit of fragmentation. In 1517, a monk named Martin Luther struck a match in the heart of this fragile web. Disgusted by church corruption, he nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg, demanding sweeping reforms. This act ignited the Protestant Reformation, splitting the already loose confederation of German lands right down the middle. When the Holy Roman Emperor tried to force strict Catholicism back onto the Protestant population of Bohemia in 1618, the ideological divide exploded into violence. The resulting 30 Years' War dragged in almost every major European power. For 3 agonizing decades, armies marched across German soil, leaving behind bloody sieges, widespread atrocities, and a decimated population. The bloodshed finally ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, but the political damage was permanent. The treaty officially shattered the Holy Roman Empire into more than 300 highly distinct, independent microstates. By the middle of the 17th century, any illusion of German unity was gone. The region's default state of maximum political and cultural division was locked in place. Out of those ashes, one highly disciplined northern state began to slowly expand, Prussia. In the 19th century, a ruthless Prussian statesman named Otto von Bismarck took the stage, deciding these fragmented lands would be forced into a single empire through iron and blood. Through a series of highly calculated military campaigns, culminating in the crushing Franco-Prussian War, Bismarck forced the independent states into submission. In 1871, the German Empire was officially declared, creating a massive, industrialized powerhouse overnight. But this newly forged empire was eager to violently secure a place among the world's colonial powers. When tensions ignited in 1914, Germany aggressively backed its allies and declared war on Russia and France. For 4 agonizing years, German soldiers were trapped in the horrific mud and slaughter of trench warfare. Exhausted by massive logistical strain and the arrival of fresh American troops, Germany agreed to an armistice in 1918. The resulting Treaty of Versailles dismantled the empire entirely, stripping away its overseas colonies and imposing punishing economic restrictions. Crushed by steep debts and the Great Depression, The German public fell into a deep economic despair. Out of this volatile atmosphere rose Adolf Hitler, a fascist dictator who harnessed that desperation to build a terrifying war machine, plunging Europe into the Holocaust and the Second World War. The Nazi regime initially blitzed across the continent with terrifying speed, but relentless pushback from Allied and Soviet forces inevitably ground them down. In April 1945, a massive, apocalyptic assault leveled Berlin. Hitler committed suicide, and Germany unconditionally surrendered. Unification achieved entirely through violent conquest and military force had resulted in the deadliest conflict in human history. The nation was reduced to rubble, and Germany was aggressively reset back to its historical norm. Broken. Following the total devastation of 1945, the victorious Allies physically carved the defeated nation into separate occupational zones. Germany was instantly transformed into the volatile epicenter of the global Cold War. To stop a massive wave of desperate citizens fleeing from the communist East to the capitalist West, the East German government constructed the Berlin Wall in 1961. This barrier of concrete and barbed wire was designed specifically to trap its own people. Over the next few decades, the two sides experienced vastly different realities. West Germany democratized and built an incredibly prosperous economy, while East Germany stagnated in poverty under strict authoritarian surveillance. The Berlin Wall became the ultimate physical manifestation of Germany's ancient curse, a single people torn apart by rigid, heavily guarded borders. But as Soviet influence began to severely weaken in the late 1980s, communist regimes across Eastern Europe started to buckle under the immense pressure of their own populations. In a largely peaceful revolution, massive crowds flooded the checkpoints. On a historic night in 1989, joyous citizens climbed atop the concrete and tore down the barrier themselves. Shortly after, East and West Germany were officially reunified, erasing the internal borders that had scarred the landscape. Germany's history is defined by this tension between fracture and unification. Having emerged from ancient tribal conflict, religious devastation, the extremes of the 20th century, and a 40-year split, the nation has finally replaced its ancient pattern of division with a lasting democratic stability.